There we go. Perfect. So we will be recording this session, and that's for those people that are unable to make the session today for whatever reason. We're really keen for this to be used as a hopefully valuable resource for students going forward. So that's the reason for recording this session today. So you should get a little notice at the top of your Microsoft Teams meeting to remind you of that. So before I hand over to our host, who I'll introduce in a second, I just wanted to do a very quick summary of who we are at Career Ready. So I think a number of you will know this already, but for anybody that doesn't, we are a charity that operates right across the UK, and we aim to connect young people with the world of work. So ordinarily, we offer face-to-face experiences, so mentoring, internships, workplace visits, things like that. Clearly at this current time, we're not able to offer such experiences, but we didn't want the students to, such as yourself, to miss out. So we run a skills festival kind of from April to June, which some of you I know participated in. So we took some learnings from that, and the fact that we're all working in a much more virtual manner than we did previously. I think we're all learning on that front, and we decided to set up this particular series. So Careers in Conversation, giving you the opportunity to hear directly from leaders across the UK. So we're really delighted to be joined by Ibn Albo as well, who is one of our Career Ready alumni. So I know you've been through the programme yourself, which is great. And any insights that crop up, please feel free to share. So yeah, delighted to hand over to yourself, if that's okay, to start the session. We haven't received any questions to the mailbox in advance, so we've come up with some and gathered them from various sources. So hopefully you'll find the questions relevant and interesting. But towards the end of the session, what we'll do is just see if anybody's got anything to add in the chat functionality, or you can raise your hand. Okay, I'll hand over to you, Ibn Abo, if that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first of the Career Ready Career in Conversation, powered by the Permira Foundation. As Louise said, my name is Ibn Abo Kenneth David West, and I graduated from the Career Ready programme in 2014. It seems like a lifetime ago, especially in the current situation that we're in. But I will be chairing this session. So can everyone please make sure that they stay on mute and that your camera is off. This event is being recorded and will be available via the Career Ready website for those unable to join us today. So today we will hear from David Cooke, the Head of IT for Europe and America at the Australia and New Zealand Banking Group Limited. So hello, David. It's nice to meet you. How are you today?
I'm all right, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to all of you guys. Hopefully we can make this interesting and relevant for everyone.
Yes, definitely. And a big thank you to you for taking time out to join us here today. So to begin, could you tell us about your role and the organisation you work for, and just what led you to the position that you're in today?
Yeah, absolutely. So as outlined, I work for a company called Australia and New Zealand Bank, otherwise known as ANZ. Probably not very well known to anyone on this call. I think if you watch any sports, if you watch the Australian Open, they're a big sponsor of that, or the New Zealand cricket team, you may have seen the logo. But for the UK, we are a small bank that operates in Canary Wharf in London, and then we also have other offices in Paris and Frankfurt and New York. Out of those countries, we probably have about 500 employees, but ANZ as a global bank has about 50,000 employees, so it's huge. My role, I look after technology just for the Europe and the US arm, and technology means anything from the user's desktop, their mobile phone, to the back-end network, server infrastructure, developing applications, IT security, cyber security. I look after that whole piece, and it's a very important role for the bank, especially at the moment with the way the world's changed with people working from home. My team were fundamental in setting everyone up so they could work from home, which didn't exist before. So yes, very stressful, challenging role. What led me to this is 20 years of working in technology. All right, I'm not going to give away my age, but I started in a position in my career. I went straight out of school.
Wow.
Leaving school with okay grades in GCSEs. I went to college and did a very, what I would call basic qualification around technology there for 2 years. And I worked in retail for a bit, right? And I loved it. I was in a job that was, I was comfortable working in. I was working with my friends. Eventually that changed in terms of I needed a bit more responsibility. And I started working in London in a very entry position and worked my way up. So over that course of 20 years, just taken on more and more responsibility, taken on chances in terms of what comes up, and led me to here. So kind of circling back, I didn't go to university. And I think it's interesting to call that out, because if you look at if I was to apply for this job that I'm in, and if I was to look at a job spec, it would say bachelor's degree. Role needs a bachelor's degree. I'm living proof that that's not the case. And I think there's benefits to going to university. I think you learn a lot about independence, surviving on your own. But I want to kind of stress to everyone out there, my personal experience is getting that bachelor's degree, getting that qualification isn't the be all and end all. If you don't feel like you want to go to university, or you don't have the grades or the qualifications to go, it doesn't limit you. Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you can get into jobs and functions and work within the experience you can gain by putting your hand up and working hard outweighs the qualification. In my experience, it's not for everyone. And because I know that when I employ people for my team, I manage around a team of about 20 people. I don't, on the CV, I look at their experience, not what qualifications they've got. So for me, a qualification means that, at some point in time, you knew enough about that topic, that fact, that you were qualified for it. But if you've been doing it from an experience point of view for 2, 3, 5 years, that for me is more beneficial than a qualification. So in terms of what got me to this position, hard work and sacrifice.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Right? And I'm sure we'll come on to that in the other questions later. But the role I'm in at the moment, so managing technology for this region is tough, but it's also a senior enough position that I sit on what's known as the executive committee for the London branch, which means I have input into the direction of the business in London. So it's without going too complicated into it, all of these things are, all the points that led me to this position are small increments in taking on more responsibility and putting my hand up and saying, yep, I'll take that on, and making that sacrifice.
Yeah, I think you've said thank you for that. That was a really great insight for a lot of people. You've said a lot of things, and I think for young people, there's a real fear that you don't have the right experience or you don't have the right qualifications to get into their ideal job. And like you said, for a lot of people, they just think the only route is going to university. So from sharing your experience, different avenues that we started off in, even working in retail and enjoying, I suppose, the different seasons that you're in and the opportunities that you're presented with, gaining experience, learning things, speaking to new people, and then just looking for bigger things. So I suppose something I picked up from what you said is that you were hungry for more, you were looking for more responsibility, you were looking to build yourself up. So I think that is a really key thing for people to be aware of. It's just, if you're putting it out there that you want to do more, you will find these opportunities to go into and succeed in further. So that was really brilliant. Thank you for that, David. So going on to some, shall we say, barriers or challenges, or is there anything that sticks out in your career journey or even your personal life that was a real barrier or obstacle for you to overcome?
I think the biggest barriers, to be honest, are my own insecurities, right? So as you take on more responsibility, and that, you know, I didn't go to university. The people I interact with all day, every day, have been to university, got degrees. So my barriers and my own insecurities of, am I even meant to be here? And there's a good term, and it's a psychological term, which is called imposter syndrome, which means, are they going to find me out and I don't know what I'm doing? Right? I know I'm good at my job. I know I wouldn't be here if I wasn't. But there's always niggling doubts of, I don't quite know how to do that, and maybe someone else who's got a degree could come in and do this job better than me. Right? And that's that imposter syndrome. Everyone suffers from it.
Yeah.
Everyone. Right? So it's not just me. The people I interact with feel the same. So I think the biggest barriers are those own insecurities of, am I good enough for this job? And the way I deal with that is, I'm always asking for feedback, good and bad. And as you all step into a career, most companies you work towards will have what they're called kind of annual reviews. They'll work with you, or they'll do it quarterly, every 3 months, and they'll say, okay, you do this really well, you need to improve on this, and your focus to combat any barriers, especially mine around the kind of anxiety, is, okay, what didn't I do well enough? What should I be doing better? And learning from that, and you know, being that self-aware is a real strength. So I'm talking about it as a barrier, but at the same time, if you become self-aware and you're always learning, that becomes a real career advantage for you, because no one wants someone that comes in, thinks they're the best at everything, doesn't want to learn.
Yeah, precisely.
Your progression will stop. In my opinion, I mean, personal barriers, not too many. I think it depends. In my personal life, being really open and honest, obviously not going to university, I didn't really gain that independence of, you know, living on my own, by doing my own washing, cooking, until I was a bit later on in life, in, you know, early 20s. But you know, I went through personal issues when I was 24. Unfortunately lost my mother. She passed away, and when I was 27, same thing with my dad. So I went through a big traumatic exercise in my mid-20s, where all of a sudden I had to grow up really fast, and learn all these things that I probably took for granted. And that's not to say that we shouldn't. That's the way life happens. You can't plan for everything. So, you know, there were barriers and challenges there. And I think as you go through your career, even at school, even at college, at university, you'll deal with people that you find really difficult to deal with. Yeah. Right? And you need to change your approach and learn how people work, and be flexible yourself to work with other people. And I'll tell you honestly now, out of the thousands of people I work with on a weekly, monthly basis, there's a portion of them I don't get on with, that I you know, necessarily do not like, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And I learned to work with them to get the results that I need. So there's all these things that you kind of learn. I've been fortunate that I've not had any barriers in terms of discrimination or anything like that. I've been very, very fortunate. Yeah, that's, like I say, my biggest barriers are the only insecurities I put on myself.
Yeah.
I feel, and like I say, everyone has them.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing some of those personal experiences that you faced. You said a lot of key things. Again, this is a wonderful conversation we're having. I think for a lot of young people, insecurities are the biggest thing. Feeling not good enough, feeling that they are underqualified, or they shouldn't be where they are. And something I picked up from you is that you shouldn't let your present circumstances or how you feel define your future or where you want to go in life. And it's really important. I think that's something the Career Ready program does, is brings an inclusiveness to young people across the country, to bring out the light that's within, and the endless possibility that can face them if they just put themselves out there and help them get a foot in the door, if you like. So like you say, I had some of those insecurities as well, that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't know enough, that I wasn't smart enough. And like you say, it's just the willingness to learn, the adaptability, the flexibility, and just the drive to work hard and to go further. So
yeah, and someone just Columbus, you just mentioned on the chat around social media hasn't done anything to help insecurities. Completely agree. Right, yes. Completely agree. And for anyone that wants it, there's a great book that I recommend to absolutely everyone that I speak to, which is, I wonder if I've got a copy of it here. I do. 2 seconds. This isn't my book, so I'm not doing a plug. But it's called Lost Connections by a guy called Johan Hari. And it's all about why people nowadays feel depressed and anxious. And now, I'm not a depressed or anxious person, but when I read this book, I closed all social media.
Wow.
Because it kind of points out exactly to that point that Columbus makes, that social media, a lot of the time, is you create a post and it's hey, look at me. And you want likes and you want comments. And when you don't get that, you feel a little bit anxious or you feel a little bit underwhelmed. I got rid of it all because people post their best side of themselves on social media and they forget about everything else.
Yeah.
Now, I could post on social media, hey, I'm doing this call. Here's me doing my exercise on my bike. Look at my kids, they're wonderful. 99% of the time, my kids are winding me up, being naughty, getting told off. Now, that stuff's not going on there. So I think social media paints an unrealistic expectation or portrait of people's lives. So absolutely, it drives insecurities. And I think you need to ask yourself, do you need it?
Yeah, definitely. I think another thing about social media is that sense of comparison and competition. You're looking at other people, and like you say, people only show the best sides of themselves on social media. So as people, we need to look within us. What do we want out of life? Where do we want to go and strive towards that? If you feel that social media is a tool that's effectively bringing you down or putting a dampener on who you are as a person, then just like maybe it's something that you need to cut out, whether it be for a period of time or however long, just so that you can get yourself back on track and on the path that you want to be on, essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah. So continuing on this line of overcoming and building yourself up after challenges, are there any setbacks that you faced, and how do you deal with setbacks in your career?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so working in technology, there's always setbacks. The thing we all know about technology is it breaks. It could be your phone, it could be your computer, your laptop, it could be a website you're using, it goes down. When you've got a business that are reliant on that, seen as a setback. And I'll give you some examples, but in terms of how I deal with it, with any setback, it could be a very important meeting that goes wrong. It could be we try to deploy some technology. There's a bit of background noise. It could be we look to roll out a new application and the user didn't like it. It could be someone's complained about me. I take it as a setback, or complain about someone in my team. So how do I deal with it? The first thing you have to do is step away. To deal with any setback, and when anyone gets a setback, it could, like I just mentioned, someone complaining about you or it didn't go the way you wanted it to do. The first thing that comes out of you as a person is your emotion, right? And people don't act the right way emotionally. You can get defensive, you can get argumentative, get upset. So the best thing to do is step away, let that emotion go through you so you can process it. I'm talking a couple of hours. You could just go for a walk.
Yeah.
You could sleep on it. You could take as long as you want. So I step away. I then analyze what happened in that situation. What did I do wrong? What could I have done differently? Is the other person wrong? Kind of analyze it in my head rationally, and I try to put myself in their shoes, which is kind of adopting a very empathetic approach, which is a new term that we're all familiar with the term IQ, intelligence, and it's measured. And there's now a good kind of corporate term called EQ, which is your emotional intelligence, which is where kind of empathy comes into it. You can put yourself in other people's shoes. Well, do I understand why they were frustrated? They're trying to do their job and this technology didn't go right, and they've had to work longer hours. That must be really annoying. I understand how that's a setback. And then I approach it to try and find a solution. I problem solve. So my kind of 3 stages to a setback are step away, analyze, problem solve, or come up with a solution. Mm-hmm. That's the way I kind of look at it. There's been many in my career where things haven't gone the way I wanted them to go. I haven't quite got that promotion, or I've promised to deliver a product and it's gone really wrong. And there's an example in my career probably about 8 years ago where it went catastrophically wrong. And I'll sum this up very quickly. We traders. So traders are, if you've seen, various films in Wall Street or various films where traders are people that sit at a desk. They have probably 10 monitors that they work with, and they're looking at data all day long, and they have a big phone on their desk with hundreds of buttons, which are just speed dials to other banks. And you see people with a phone where they buy this, sell this. Generic, that's a trader. They have zero patience, and they're making money every second. So they're very, very, very high expectations. And about 8 years ago, I run a project at a different bank, which was to replace and upgrade the phone system that they use. Critical piece of hardware. We was going to the latest and greatest. You're going to get so many benefits from this. And we did the change over a weekend. We tested it. And when we went live on the Monday, all their calls are getting dropped. So they would speak to their counterparts, their customers, their clients, and the calls are dropping. So what happens with that is the customer just calls someone else, and we lose that business. Mm-hmm. So what happened from that is, I'm not even lying, 20-hour days for 3 weeks straight to try and correct this problem. Right, and it basically meant I would get in the office at about 6 o'clock in the morning. That's when the traders start. I would speak to the head of the trading department and say, we did this last night, still not quite right. Or we fixed this problem, but we found this problem. It took 3 weeks. I was going to sleep at about 2 o'clock in the morning, being up for 6 and working all the way to 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, I see that as a setback because it didn't go right. Mm. And working that long, 3 weeks straight, not nice. All right, staying in a hotel for 3 weeks, not going home. My wife bringing me up clothes to get changed into. That's not the way you want to live. But so that's a setback. Now I could have given up. Don't know what to do. Okay, I don't know what to do. We're not going forward. Instead, I threw everything into fixing this issue. I sacrificed my time, my effort. I approached the difficult situation, which was the 6 o'clock meeting with the head of trading every morning to give him an update. Facing the fire, people call it. Went in there, we got this working, but not good enough. We're going to try again. We're going to do this again. That incident set me up for my career.
Wow.
Right, I learned so much. I mean, I learned test it properly over the weekend for starters, but the whole piece around planning, attention to detail, ownership, accountability, honesty, integrity. I'll refer back to that incident as the biggest learning curve in my career. It could have been a setback, but it was also the biggest catalyst to me developing. Wow. And it's just how you approach it. And there were other people in my team that didn't approach it the same way. That did, I need to go home at 6 o'clock. Okay. They're still in their role. I've progressed up in my career since then, based on the lessons I learned there. So, yes, many setbacks, I guess the key thing is you learn from them.
Yeah, definitely. And you're speaking about, I suppose, drawing the comparison or differentiating between reacting to a situation and responding to one when you have had time to think, digest, process, plan, and execute. And just like you say, in your career, in your personal life, we will be placed in uncomfortable situations, we will make mistakes, we will come across setbacks, but it's how we respond to them and how we deal with them. And character building, like you say, you refer back to that event that happened, and you've got all these skills, you've noticed all these things, and you've progressed, most importantly, and you're able to share your experience to ultimately encourage other people. I always say that sometimes we don't go through things for ourselves, but to benefit the next generation after us or somebody else that might go through it in a different time. So it's brilliant to hear that you didn't let that setback define you and stop your progress, and obviously from where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going on now, knowing what you do now and all the things that you've experienced, what kind of advice would you give your teenage self, say 17 years old, 16, 17?
Yeah. I get asked this one a lot. I mean, I think at the time of being that young, I kind of adopted a say yes to everything mindset. I think that still sticks. If there's an opportunity to take on more work, do something different, say yes. Stick your hand up all the time. Be the person that always wants more, and that means sacrifice of your time. So I stick by that. I think that the one thing I'd probably change, this will probably get quite deep, is don't chase the money, right? And I know, I think if I said to everyone on here now, if we did a survey or a poll, what would make you happy in your job? I'm going to guesstimate that 90% of people would say money, a lot of money. Right? If you pay me £100,000 a year, I'll be really happy in my job. I can tell you, it's not that. Been there, done that. Not the way it is, right? So what I would say to my 17-year-old self is, do something you enjoy.
Yeah.
Right. And I know that sounds very kind of airy fairy, but you know what? If you like working in retail, if you like mowing the grass, if you like taking on responsibility and being a manager, that's what you should do. Because the trap you get into is when you earn that £100,000, which you're striving towards, I'm generalizing, with that becomes a trap. So if you wake up every day, you're like, oh God, I've got to do this job again. All right, you could quit, but the likelihood is you've got a mortgage, expensive. You've got a gym membership that goes with your salary. You've got kids. You've got this car. All of a sudden, you've committed to buying all of those things. But you can't just quit your job. Then you have to stay in that job, and it's a cycle. So do something. What I would say to my 17-year-old self, and at 17, thinking back on it, I don't know what I wanted to do. So I'm kind of saying, do something you enjoy. I do enjoy my job sometimes, and other jobs I think, why did I go down this path? So the advice I'll give is don't chase the money. Don't go for the job which you think will give you the money that you think will make you happy, but it won't.
Yeah. No, that's key advice, and something that we all forget, no matter what age we are. I think that money isn't everything. Money doesn't bring you happiness. You have to be in something you enjoy, because like you say, it could be a Monday to Friday, it could be a Monday to Sunday, and if you don't enjoy any aspect of that, what really is your life going to be? So yeah, find your passion, go after it, chase it, do what you enjoy. And so what are some of the 3 skills that you would look for, or that young people could have in general to be successful in their careers?
Yeah, number one thing I look for in any interview I do for someone who wants to come in and work for my company or work for me, and generally for people I interact with, number one I look for is enthusiasm. Right, so someone that just wants to do the job that we're advertising for, or someone that wants to work with me, someone wants to get this task completed. So enthusiasm, just demonstrating, and I do the same thing with my managers. Hey, we've got this problem, and being passionate and wanting to do it rather than, oh really, you know, we'll do that again. No one wants that. Number one thing I look for is enthusiasm, because I think you could come in and interview for me without any qualifications, with a little bit of experience, but if you're enthusiastic and you say, I want to learn this, I want to do this, and I'll work hard to do it, if I feel that, that's what I want in my team. I want people that have that enthusiasm and that drive. The second thing I look for, I think, as a key skill is self-awareness. And that's understanding that you're not going to come in and think you're the best thing since sliced bread, and you can't be taught any other way. I'm very, very self-aware, and like I mentioned earlier, I'm always looking at what should I be doing better. I'm reading books like this all the time. I like reading. Reading books about personal development. It sticks, and I think being self-aware again and asking for that feedback, what should I do differently, is such a good trait that managers and senior people look for that will benefit you in your career. So enthusiasm, self-awareness. The last one I think is around collaboration. So being able to work with different people. Okay, it's great. Sometimes I operate as an individual. I'm looking at my screen. I could spend a couple of hours working on a task by myself, but a lot of the time I'm having to deal with different people, and my day to day started at 4 o'clock in the morning. I had a call with someone in Melbourne in Australia to collaborate on an initiative. At 6 o'clock I had an international technology call with people in Japan, Vietnam, Singapore, Hong Kong, Australia again, and I had to collaborate with all these different people. If I couldn't, and I worked as an individual, then I'm limited on my career, and it's really difficult. And you don't get all these things out of the box, but self-awareness and being aware of your weaknesses and your strengths and always trying to fine-tune them is what's going to help you in your career. So love people that are enthusiastic. Some people that put their hand up and say, I don't know how I'm going to get it done, but I'm going to get it done. People that ask for that feedback around self-awareness, and people that are going to collaborate. I need you and you to work together. Go and work it out. They're the things I look for.
Those are brilliant. This goes back to your who, your why, your what. Who are you? What do you bring to the table? What can you offer? How will you develop? Why do you want to do it? Your drive, your passion, like you say. I remember an interview that I went for the role that I'll be going into. They asked, are you smart or are you hardworking? And I said hardworking. I'm the person, I will stand by the bin and sharpen all the pencils in the office if that's what I need to do to make sure the team gets where it needs to be. Just whatever you can bring it, but bring it with your passion and your excitement, because ultimately you want to do well, and employers like yourself, you want to see the people in your team doing well and growing themselves and developing, I'm sure.
No, absolutely. And I had a call earlier on with one of my junior staff who wants a new role, which we're giving them the opportunity to do, but he's too busy, right? And says he's too busy. Now, I'm not discrediting anyone and how busy they are, but young, living at home, no children, everything's shut at the moment.
Yeah.
My comment back was, yes, I know you're busy, but what are you going to sacrifice? And to your point, what are you going to do differently around hard working? Can you sacrifice half an hour a day? And the comment was, well, yeah, half an hour a day is fine. I'm like, well, that's 2.5 hours a week. That's all I'm asking you for. So all of a sudden you're not busy, and that's where I think always putting your hand up. Like I said, I didn't want to work 20-hour days during that crisis situation. But I guarantee over the course of my career, I probably averaged a 10-hour working day, if not more, to get where I've got to do. That sacrifice you have to make, and it's not for everyone. I set out an early objective to be the job title is a CIO, Chief Information Officer, or Chief Technology Officer. which is kind of the role I'm in now. That was my desire. That was, I want to get to that. I want to get to that. I feel like I've made it when I've got to that role. But I think those 3 skills are what helped me get there, but that's also what I look for in my team.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And just like you said, that you're going to come across uncomfortable situations, and I suppose there comes a point where there's something that you might not want to do, but disciplining yourself to get through the rough patch, to do what you need to do. And ultimately, in some cases, it will become a routine of you just being able to overcome things and hitting a rough patch. Discipline yourself to do what you need to do, overcome the next one. So I remember my friend was talking about brushing your teeth as a child. Brushing your teeth wasn't, maybe not for everyone, but maybe as a child, it wasn't one of the most fun activities. But now every day, it's just something that you do day and night. So just like that, if you look at that, and for people listening, if you find something uncomfortable or difficult to do, train yourself, discipline yourself, and I'm sure you'll get there in the end. So finally, I know we've just been, it's been a really great conversation. I know there's a question just came in. Let me see if I can get that. How often do you find yourself in a stagnant situation, one in which no one can come to a decision? How do you navigate that?
There's probably two variants of that. So where I manage a team of individuals, where I manage a team, my team can come to a stagnant situation where, like you say, no one can come to a decision. That's where me as a manager, I'll have to just look at the facts and make a decision based on my experience. It may be wrong, it may be right. I've made right decisions, I've made wrong decisions. No one gets it right 100% of the time. So don't put yourself under that pressure. In terms of, now I have a manager as well. He's in Singapore. Sometimes we don't agree. Right? I need her to agree in order for the change that I need to occur. And that can be frustrating. Right? That could be an example of a setback where I'll go away, I'll analyse, I'll come back. So I think when no one can come to a decision, sometimes you need to, if you're a manager, like I say, I can make the decision myself, and people can disagree. We agree to disagree. That's just the way it is. It can feel uncomfortable. In terms of trying to influence other people to make a decision, it's another kind of key skill that you need to work out, which is that influencing skills. There's a difference between influencing and manipulating. Those influencing skills around, here's what I think we should do, here's why. And the way I look at this is, if after I've had a conversation around something that needs to be decided, if we haven't been able to agree, then I've not done a good enough job myself articulating what needs to be done or what needs to change. So that's where I'll take that back and try and step in the other person's shoes to think, well, what is it they want? And sometimes you're not going to convince them. Sometimes you're not going to be able to get people to make a decision or agree with your decision. You need to accept that and get on with it. Right? There's no, I've got people in my team that no one wants to be the person that says, well, I told you so. I told you that wouldn't work. Right? Great. Don't be that person. All right? You wouldn't be the person that, all right, look, we decided this, it didn't work. Let's move forward together. Let's learn from that. That's the kind of person you've got to be. I hope that kind of answers that question.
I think it definitely did. You gave a lot of good scenarios there. Being in a management position like yourself, there can be brilliant answer. There you go. That's fantastic. And just, I know I don't know if we're running over time, but the final question then, in your own words, with your experience, what do you think it means to be career ready at 18?
Yeah, so let me put everyone at ease. I had no idea what I wanted to do when I was 18. Right, I was at college. I worked in a retail shop. I loved it. I was with my mates. I would go out every night. We would turn up for work the next day, work in shop, go out. Now, my mum applied for the job in London that I first got. Wow. If it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have got it. Right, so I had no idea. she took life into her own hands and applied for me, and I got that job. So if you don't have a plan around what you want to do, it's okay. I didn't, right? But I knew that I was hardworking. I put my all into everything, and I had a desire to achieve more. So I think that what you should have to be career ready at 18, I think, accept that you're not going to know at 18 what you want to do. You've not sampled anything out there in terms of the real world, in terms of working and jobs. You don't know. How do you know what you want to do if you've not been through an organisation and seen all the different elements that you can work in? So I think I took the job that I interviewed for, my mum applied me for. I took not really knowing what it was or what it was going to be, but I took it. And I thought, well, I'll try it. Doesn't mean I'm going to work there for the rest of my life, but I'll try it. I stayed there for 6 years. Right, and after 2 years, I was managing people. After 4 years, I was managing a whole team. So it wasn't in my plan to go and work there. But when I got there and I realised what opportunities there were, it opened my eyes to the possibilities.
Yeah.
So, but I think I've got to kind of go back to that point, which is, if you've got something you really like doing, I like playing golf, right? I didn't when I was 18. If I could teach people how to play golf every day or play golf every day, I would, right? I wouldn't sit at a computer fixing things. It's not practical for me now because I'm in the trap where I've got a mortgage and kids, and I'm not good enough at golf. So trying to find something you're kind of happy doing, I think, in terms of being career ready, is kind of accepting that you're not going to know what you want to do, but have a plan. I'm a competitive person. I always wanted to lead and do well, but that's not for everyone. So it's a really difficult one. I don't want to say don't have a plan, don't worry about it, it'll all work out. But don't be too hard on yourselves where you don't really have an idea of what you want to do. And your plan should be, I'll give things a try. Yeah. For me, right? Try, and if it's not right, change, because you're young enough to do it. Mm-hmm. And it's okay to change.
Yeah, precisely. That's great. That's a perfect summary. Just try it out. Whoever's out there, try it. If you don't like it, change it. And try something new. The ultimate thing is just keep going. Have something that you're passionate about. And like for me, I'm a bit of the opposite of you, David. I'm not too competitive, but I just enjoy working with people and helping people. So I'm a team member, and I enjoy the collaborative side and just helping everyone to get where they need to be. So just find what you're good at, what skills you have, and use them to your advantage, and just present them to people. And I can assure you, the right person will take you on. So thank you, David. Thank you so much. It's been really great hearing about you and your career path, and thank you for sharing some of your personal experiences. It's been very, very insightful for me, and I'm sure for everyone watching and the people to watch later on. So yes, thank you. The next Careers in Conversation will be on Wednesday, the 12th of August at 2 p.m, when we will hear from Nick Newman, Defence and Security Expert at PA Consulting. So to book your place, go to Eventbrite. So that is us for today. I hope you have all enjoyed this session, and I wish you a lovely day and a happy and successful future. Take care, and thank you very much.
Thanks so much, both. It was a really interesting session. Thank you.